Ako si Rose, 32 years old. At itong anak ko. Kakapanganak ko lang sa kanya noong isang araw. Wala pa siyang pangalan. Di ko na itatago. Nakakalungkot na may mga naisip na ako para umiwas sa bigat ng responsibilidad. Lumapit na ako sa mga taong kaya siyang ibenta para sa ilang libo. Handa na rin ako noon na ipalaglag kahit illegal at delikado para sa akin. Labandera kasi ako. At ngayon, onti lang nagpapalabas sa akin. Minsan, sapat ang kita, pero madalas kulang. Pangatlo ko na rin to. Tapos mag-isa lang ako. At kahit gusto ko siyang alagaan, nahihirapan na nga ako sa dalawa at wala pa akong suporta galing sa pamilya ko. Ano na lang ay papangsustento ko sa baby ko. Buti na lang, naglakas loob akong lumapit at humingi ng tulong sa amo ko. Ipinakilala niya ako sa tulong kay nanay at sa Rohe Foundation. Ginabayan nila ako sa aking pisikal, medikal at emosyonal na pangangailangan. Ipinaunawa din nila sa akin kung gaano kahalaga ang magiging desisyon ko para sa anak ko. Dahil dito, nakita ko ang aking kakayahan at pinili ko na mismo ang mag-aalaga sa kanya. Ang kwento ko ay isa lang sa maraming kwentong pag-asa ng mga ina na katulad ko. Para sa iba, ang pagpapaampon ng kanilang anak ang mas mabuting desisyon. At hindi yan masama. Nandyan din ang Rohe Foundation para gabayan ako na tahakin ang tama at legal na proseso ng pag-ampon ng bata. Pagpapaampon man o pagpiling ipagpatuloy ang pag-alaga sa bata, walang mas angat na desisyon. Ang mahalaga lang, dapat malayo sa peligro ang ina at ang kanyang anak.
Life was good. We were blessed. We had been married for a couple of years. We were enjoying life in Singapore, and we had a baby on the way. These were answers to our prayers. These were sources of comfort. However, comfort does have the habit of slipping away. 5 months in and 1 heartbeat less, we saw the perfect life we pictured slip from our grasp. There was pain, there was brokenness, there was sadness. After months of anticipating joy, we found ourselves in the middle of unimaginable grief. Across Southeast Asia and the Philippines, grief has made itself known to many parents, not due to the loss of a life, but the giving away of one. Soft hands and fragile skin sold to feed mouths and fill pockets for a day. There's no hate in the giving away, only desperation. Desperation brought about by circumstance. Desperation that leads to child trafficking, infant prostitutes, child criminals, abandonment. It's tough to see the demand for such a business at such a high level. Billions of dollars being used to fund the violation of innocent bodies, some too young to even comprehend the pain. Even more, it's tough to know that this is being done in the land we grew up in, right in the city we call home. Our hearts beat for these children, so much so that it beats for a specific one. If we were to be advocates for these children, then we must first be examples. In October 2017, a pregnant mother couldn't keep her child. So with desperation, she searched for someone to be the one to hold her baby in their arms. We wanted to help, and so we did. But we never knew that it would be our hands that God would use to cradle this child. 3 weeks in, and one heartbeat more, we had her in our grasp. Our hearts were filled with love and our souls refashioned. We are no heroes, just followers answering a call. Had we chosen to reject the call, turn our heads away, or hesitate even for a moment, our child would have been one of many whose body has become a commodity. She is one less child prostituted, one less child trafficked, one less child abandoned, one less child lost in the system, one less child victim, one less orphan. But she is just one less. There are millions of children out there who may never have access to a family, access to care, to nourishment, to shelter, to safety, to a childhood. But if more people extended their arms to these children, if the stigma behind adoption was redefined to be a culture of love, then 2 less children would be trafficked, 10 less children abandoned, 1,000 less children criminals, 1 million less children victims to this injustice. And instead, more children would be welcomed home by families. We'll treat them with love, provide them with nourishment, house them in shelter, care for their safety, and allow for them to have a childhood. Now the call is great, but the answer is simple. It's a heart willing to serve and a courageous kind of love. It's open arms and open homes. At the Rohe Foundation, we advocate for adoption. As of 2016, 1.8 million children in the Philippines were considered abandoned or neglected. And out of that 1.8 million, only 1,818 were placed for adoption. So as a response, the Rohe Foundation aims to develop programs that provide holistic care for pregnant women in crisis, to rescue babies before they are abandoned and disowned, and to encourage and guide families in their adoption journeys. Through this, we hope to see a world where every orphan is adopted into a family, and that all families would be empowered to move in compassion and generosity toward children in need of families. Because at the end of the day, family is the answer.
I didn't carry Milana in my womb for 9 months, but in my heart and in my soul, I've carried her way more than 9 months. She's been a product of our years of prayer and years of conversations with God, and she's ours. You know, she's ours, really and truly. Like, she's ours. You know what I mean? And I'm sure you get what I mean.
When I was asked that question, no, I realized na, oh nga, how did I overcome that? I think by just God appointing me. He's mine. Moses is mine. God qualified me by giving him to me. So, dun pa lang, nakakalma na yung fears ko na, oh nga, I'm his real mom. Ako yung mom niya. God already qualified me for it. So, he gave Moses to me, so I'm the real mom. And regardless of what happens in the future, my son wanted to meet his biological family one day.
Being a mom starts with really the decision. Once you say yes, because people are so afraid to say yes because they want to feel like the mom first. No, you say yes, and then you feel like a mom. You'll just feel that protective side of you, I guess.
Well, I would advise parents who adopted their child to tell their adopted child as early as possible. The younger, the better, and let them say it in a positive way that they're a gift from God.
I think it's teaching me, like I said earlier, just the heart of God is all about sacrifice, and he left the 99 to go after the one. He sacrificed his son to adopt, and learning how to love first with Chloe, and understanding that kind of sacrificial love where it's not about biology, and it's about deciding and choosing, and that it's a privilege. It's really teaching me, that love is action. Love is sacrifice.
It's not about just providing for your family. It's not providing for your family. It's about raising the next generation and allowing them to be impacted by Jesus the way Jesus impacted you. And how you model that. And how can you model if you're not home? How can you model and mentor if you're not home?
Actually, we coin it this way. First, we say, bring your mission home.
Okay.
Everybody has a mission by heart, right? And can't figure out what my mission is. And everyone knows, okay, I give my tithes, I give my money, but there's something I want to do on my own. But I can't go to Timbuktu, I can't go to Africa, I can't go, what's my mission? So we coined the phrase. I said, it's very simple. Bring your mission home.
One way or another, God's going to make sure He's going to provide for you, for your needs, for that child's need. Just do the right part. Someone once said, stop asking God to bless what you're doing. Find out what God's doing, because it's already blessed. So I think that we all need to look at, okay, let's not look at what's in front of us as far as finances and our circumstance and all this. Let's just do it, and God's going to bless it somehow, some way. Let's just trust God that He's going to come through for us.
So my advice to all fathers out there, and of course to all parents who be parents, is that just be ready for it, because it's not going to be easy. Sure, yeah. But of course, all the fun that you have and the love that you're going to get from your children makes it worth it. And it's I'll do it 10 times over just to have that feeling of having children who love you and call you daddy and call you mommy. That's priceless. You can't put a price tag on that.
1.8 million of orphans, neglected, abandoned children. If one church could provide one family, I think by the grace of God, we can see no more orphans in our nation.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm so glad that you're able to join us today. My name is Karina Henson, and I'm coming to you as one of the members of the Rohi Foundation. So glad that you can join us this afternoon. Really excited to have you. It's a really good day. Some of you might have already heard on the news, but we don't want to spoil anything. We'll talk a little bit about that with our guest in just a little bit. But before we get to that, I do have a few reminders, and I do want to welcome everybody who's joining us for the very first time. Rohe Foundation is a nonprofit organization. Our heart is really to advocate for adoption. It's to be able to create a culture where adoption is celebrated. And we're just very happy to be gathering a community of adoptive families who are really at the forefront of pursuing that. And we're glad that you're joining us. So if you know of anybody who has any questions about adoption, the reason Rohe Foundation exists is we believe that there are a lot of families who are interested in adoption. There are a lot of families who are open to adoption, but that sometimes the process can be daunting. It can be intimidating. And sometimes there are questions that go unanswered that sometimes hinder us from taking those actual steps towards adoption. One of the statistics we quote all the time is it's a US-based statistic that says 37% of families think about adoption, but only 1% of that 37 actually pursue it. And so our heart is that those who think about it and who think it's a good idea and say they're open and willing, that we would be able to equip you to actually pursue adoption. And so if you're watching today and you have a friend, a family member who maybe at one point in their life has mentioned that, adoption was something they were open to, they were interested to learn more about, maybe foster care, maybe just responding to the orphan crisis. They like visiting children's homes and they like going to those kinds of outreach events where they can help and serve those in need. Well, we invite you to tag them, send them this stream, invite them to watch us while we're live. But if in the event they can't join us, this will be available afterwards. But we would like everybody to have the opportunity to join us live, especially while we have our guests with us. So please go ahead and do that. Take some time to do that. In the meantime, a couple of announcements that'll help you get to know us better. Our Pregnant Women in Crisis program is up and running. We continue to do that. And really, this is our attempt at kind of addressing the orphan crisis even before the problem arises. So we work with pregnant women who find themselves unsure about their capacity and their willingness to see their pregnancies through. So they're usually in difficult circumstances and they need support throughout their pregnancy. Otherwise, they would fall victim to people who might convince them that child trafficking is a good idea, might convince them that illegal adoption is a good idea, that abortion is a good idea. And so we want to support these women and make sure that we're able to educate them, provide them with the support that they need. And so we have our Tulong Kay Nanay Facebook page. If you look us up on Facebook, you'll be able to get more information from that page. It's called Tulong Kay Nanay. It's for pregnant women in crisis. It's RF Tulong Kay Nanay. Look us up, send us a message. Our team is very quick to respond to any inquiries that you have, or people that you might know that might need support. Please do pass the message. Let them know that they can reach out to us through this page. Also, really excited about our upcoming Family is the Answer. We've been talking about this for a while. Looks like we'll be able to do a launch of Family is the Answer sometime in October. If you're interested in attending Family is the Answer, maybe you've heard about it from when we used to be able to do it live face-to-face. Family is the Answer is now going to become an online forum. It'll be done purely online. We'll have both live versions as well as pre-recorded versions of Family is the Answer. And if you're interested or you want to find out already more about this particular seminar that we do, I invite you to just send us a message so that we can make sure that you stay up to date on the final announcement for Family is the Answer. Also, our consults are ongoing. We still have slots for September. The September calendar is just opened. You can scan the QR code. I think we have a QR code. You can scan a QR code, or you can go to this link, bit.ly/RF adoption consultation. And through that, you can basically book a calendar slot with us and give us a little bit of information about you so that we can be prepared for the consultation that we do. You can let us know, do you have technical questions, or are your questions related more to your emotional preparedness as a family to adopt? Do you have questions about raising an adopted child? Whatever your questions might be, go to this link, let us know how we can help you, and we will see you at one of those adoption consults. So the last announcement that I have is about our Family is the Answer podcast. Woohoo, super excited about this. We have finally launched our Family is the Answer podcast. We have 3 episodes out this week. And, one is on the orphan crisis, why everybody should care. A lot of times people say, oh, well, that's not for me. I don't know. I'm not really called to adopt. Or I don't really feel adoption is for me. Well, we're here to debunk that myth. Everybody should care. Tune into episode 1. We'll talk also a little bit about the orphan crisis. The numbers that we've been seeing frequently used when talking about the orphan crisis in the Philippines are not actually very accurate. And we'll talk to you about why in episode 2. And then in episode 3, if you're starting your adoption journey, we have tips for you there. So we, in partnership with Podcast Network Asia and Podmetrics, have just launched the Family is the Answer adoption and foster care podcast, which is both informational and inspirational. So you can stream that now on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Music, wherever you stream your podcast from. We're there. And do let us know what your thoughts are about the first few episodes. Please do give us feedback. We're so excited to hear from you, as well as to know if there are any topics you'd like us to cover. Feel free to send that in the chat as well if you have thoughts about topics that we can cover on the podcast. We would love to hear from you. All right. Last but not the least, social media accounts. If you want to keep in touch with us, our social media accounts are active. You can find more information about us from rohifoundation.org, Facebook, Instagram, email. Stay connected with us. We definitely want to hear from you, even if it's just an update on your adoption journey, a prayer request, a question. Feel free to send us a message. We would be so happy to hear from you. All right, great. The best part of the program is here. I'm about to introduce our guest for this early evening live chat that we're doing together. Monica Jimenez-Bigbig is a lawyer. She currently specializes in banking and finance. That's what she does full time, given that she is also passionate about law. She is an educator. She teaches law in 2 different law schools in the Philippines. She continues to do that now part-time. She and her husband, Jeremy, they actually met in high school. That's high school sweethearts. What a great story. And before the pandemic, they used to travel a lot, try new restaurants, and take care of their lovely pet cat. In 2019, they together actually decided to pursue adoption and eventually got matched and were able to adopt their daughter, Gabby. Also great to stay connected with Monica because she actually has an Instagram account where she documents the legal process of adoption and her own journey. A lot of great insights. I was browsing this earlier today and there were so many different things I was picking up and I thought such great content. If you want another adoption advocacy to follow, you can follow little.journeys.ph. But before you do that, let's welcome Attorney Monica Jimenez-Bigbig.
Hi, Krina. Good afternoon.
Hi, Monica. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here and agreeing to share your story with us and your journey.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, likewise. So glad that you said yes. Monica, I was really excited to talk to you and to reconnect with you. I know that we actually had the privilege of meeting ever so briefly and connecting way back in 2018, right? In
2019.
In 2019. And at that point, your adoption journey was just getting started. We met at the Family is the Answer, one of the Family is the Answer forums we did. And so much has happened since then, not to mention a pandemic, a COVID-19 pandemic, which has somewhat interrupted or seemingly interrupted the adoption process. But I wanted to maybe get a bit of background first for you and Jeremy, your husband, what the process was for you guys first being open to adoption. Mm-hmm. And then we'll dive into your adopting during the pandemic journey.
Yeah, sure. So we actually first discussed adoption during our pre-Cana seminar. So even before we got married, we had talked about it already. We got married relatively late. We were in our mid-30s. So, it was always a reality that we may have difficulty conceiving. And that was okay with us. We were always open to adoption. We always said we'd both be fine with it. We thought our families would be supportive of it. So after about 4 years of getting married and not yet being blessed with a baby, we decided, okay, let's start the adoption process already.
Did you have any concerns at that time? I mean, it's wonderful to hear that adoption was something that you actually discussed even before marriage, and there was already an openness to that. What do you think cultivated that openness and that healthy mindset about adoption? Because we hear a lot of times, usually, when you have conceiving takes a little bit longer than expected. Sometimes it's a struggle to kind of come to the place where you're actually open to adoption, but it seems that was not the case for you and Jeremy.
Yeah. Actually, well, as I said, maybe because we got married in our 30s already, we had a lot of experience taking care of our nephews and nieces. And we're like ninong and ninang ng bayan. And our kids, we love our friends' kids. So we knew that we were capable of loving children who aren't related to us. And vice versa, we also in our lives had adults who we loved as family, even if we're not related to them, like a former, like a mentor, or
Right.
a priest that we know. So we that wasn't difficult to hurdle for us. We knew we were capable of that love.
Yeah, that's wonderful. That's the first time I've heard that perspective. That we're capable of loving outside of our family and outside of that circle of those who are biologically related to us. Um, and so, if we can do that with the people around us, people we love and respect, we can surely do that with the children that come to us through adoption as well.
We even loved our cat so much. So if we can love our pet that much, we knew that we could provide that same love and care to a child that needs parents.
That's wonderful. Okay, great. So, you finally, you said about 4 years into marriage, right? You guys decided, okay, let's explore this a bit more seriously, and start making the actual steps towards adoption. I think what's really unique about your story is there's this perception that the pandemic is going to like halt the adoption process, that no point adopting now. We're in the middle of a global pandemic. DSWD is overloaded, agencies are overloaded, but actually we're finding that that's not actually the case with you. However, the reality was you started the process pre-pandemic. And so maybe you can walk us through, and I thought we could maybe go through your timeline, which is something that people are always very curious about. So could you
Yeah.
take us back to the very start? I think your journey starts sometime in early 2019, right?
Yes, that's right. So our journey started in May 2019, which was when we attended the adoption forum at the DSWD. So we went to DSWD directly. We did not go to an adoption agency. And then from May to about July or August, we compiled all the requirements. So we got the clearances, the recommendation letters, the certifications, all the official documents. And then we submitted it, and we were scheduled for a home study. That was around September. Yeah, and then so the home study involves the social worker visiting your house and looking at how you live and conducting a thorough interview on about the spouse's lives and everything from your childhood to
Right.
families, everything we do. Uh, we concluded that the same month, September.
In September as well.
Yes.
Do you mind if I kind of go back a little bit, right? Like, so you're saying you attended the forum with DSWD in May, and the home visit wasn't actually until sometime in September. So why is it that there's that big, gap as well in timing? So you're saying, you attend the forum, and you reached out directly to DSWD, right? And so was it just a call? How did you get in touch with them? And actually, get the details about the forum and all of that.
Well, when we decided to adopt, we did our research online, and
Okay.
I had some familiarity with adoption laws, having studied it in law school. So and I was led to the website of the DSWD, and then I saw that there was a scheduled forum.
Forum.
Mhm.
Great. So you guys just called, showed up for the forum, and decided that you would stick with working directly with DSWD to process the adoption.
Yes, that's right.
The reason why, because a lot of times also when people are in that phase, it's a choice between working with an agency and then working directly with DSWD. What was that like for you, and why did you guys decide, okay, let's work with DSWD?
Well, actually, that was one of the questions raised in the forum. Someone asked the speakers, what's the difference between going through DSWD and going through an agency? Um, and the DSWD was actually honest enough to say that, well, sometimes the agency can be faster because they have less cases to work on.
Right.
Yeah, but and then they said, but the process is the same. Like the children, the children
That's right.
that are matched with you come from the same group of children, and yeah, and to DSWD's credit, when we attended the forum, we saw that they were very organized. The social workers seemed very competent. So that gave us confidence to pursue it with them.
Okay. Great. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, because I think you're right. That is a very frequently asked question, and it's a point of, like, it's one of those crossroads, right? Where you have to decide, do I take this route and stick with it, or do I take this route? Because it's like once you go down one path, you don't want to have to change your mind halfway through, because it means practically starting over.
That's right.
Okay, so once deciding to go with DSWD, you submitted your requirements to them. What are the requirements like, and what was that process of compiling all of the requirements like for you? That's usually a daunting process for families, because there's so many requirements, and how do I get all of this? And they're not easy to get, especially in the Philippines. Some of the requirements are a little bit of, they're not hard, but they're a hassle to kind of acquire, right?
Mhm. Yeah, that's true. Well, fortunately, as a lawyer, I'm a little used to dealing with government agencies, so complying with all of these requirements. The adoption process was a bit different, though, because for two things. One was the medical clearance, because
Okay.
the guidelines just say medical clearance showing that you're fit to adopt, and the clinics or the doctors don't know what that
What that
means.
means, yeah.
That's not a medical term, or right, so they were actually at a loss at what to put. So at first they issued us certificates, like just the usual ones for employment or for travel, so we had to
Right.
explain what needed to be placed there. The other thing was the recommendation letters. We Part of the requirement is to submit 3 recommendation letters or character references, and of course we chose our friends who knew us very well and had known us for a
Right.
long time, and the technically the requirement is a very simple character reference, a basic one.
Mhm.
Just saying that you're not morally unfit, right?
Right.
That you're
You're not
not
a criminal.
you're
You
not
don't have a
yeah, you're not a criminal. But of course, being our friends, they got very invested or emotional about it. So
that
the
can take a
references were
while.
something else. Yeah, and it took a while, but yeah, but it was great. We're very grateful for them.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, it's always so nice to know that our friends are willing to support us in the adoption journey. But yeah, I guess a good tip is like just guiding them and letting them know that a simple character reference letter, not having to spend too much time on it, will actually suffice. It's just to let DSWD know that they know the family, that they're of good moral character, and they would be great parents. But you also mentioned about the medical exam, and I want to go back to that. So, Monica, what tips would you have for those who are now in the middle of trying to acquire, the different requirements and things that they need, and they see on their list medical exam saying that they're fit to adopt, what exactly should they be telling the doctor or the clinics or the hospitals where they get these checks? What exactly did that mean?
Well, for us, what we explained was that was it doesn't mean that you have no medical conditions. Like it doesn't mean you can't have, for example, asthma or
Right.
hypertension, which is very common.
Right.
We said that it just means that you are physically fit to perform the role of a parent. So taking care of the baby, and like you're not gonna fall asleep while watching the baby, or or you
But
don't
even
have
good
any-
parents do that. Fall asleep while watching.
Oh yeah,
their
that's
baby.
true.
Even healthy, physically fit parents do that.
That's true. But I meant like without a medical condition that makes you do
Yes.
that.
Right. And so,
Yeah, so-
can they just go to their their family physician to write out, a letter stating that, or is there formal medical clearance? I know that for myself and my husband, we did one of those thorough annual physical exams, where they kind of just did an overall health check, and that seemed to be sufficient. But in your case, what was the experience like?
Yeah, we had the annual physical exam, just the basic ones that
Right.
The basic package basically, and like what we explained was they're just looking for anything that maybe the child can catch, or
Sure.
would permanently incapacitate you, or like like be such a financial burden if you
Right.
end up getting sick. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you said that, because I think one of the perceptions is, oh no, do I need to be perfectly healthy to adopt? Or, can I not have any health issues, or, but that's kind of an unrealistic expectation, right? So
In fact, one reason that it took us from May to August to submit our requirements was in the middle of that, my husband had to have shock therapy for kidney stones.
okay.
Yeah, so we had to wait. We had to go through that procedure, and after that, get cleared.
I see. So was that actually something you had to accomplish first before they would clear you? Or was it
Well,
more personal preference, like you just wanted to make sure that that wasn't going to hinder the process? And
yes, we just wanted because we knew that once we submitted it, we might be scheduled for a home visit already.
right.
Yeah, so it was we knew that something like that would not hinder or would not disqualify us.
Right.
But yeah, we just
But just
wanted
practically speaking, right? Get it out of the way. Make sure you're healthy and fit. I do want to ask you a question, because there's a question now in the chat regarding this by Christy. Hi, Christy. She's asking, I agree with you on the fit for adoption health requirement. We needed a physical medical check as well as a psychological assessment. Did you require the psychological assessment also as part of your process?
We were not required to submit that, but that was brought up during the adoption forum in the DSWD as a requirement for single persons wanting to adopt.
I think there are to add to that, I think there are special cases wherein a psychological assessment shows up as one of the basic requirements. However, it's good to double check with your social worker whether that is applicable to you. I've found that it's one of those which can be kind of waived, and the social worker can decide whether or not they can do away with that particular requirement on depending on the circumstances. Yeah.
Yeah, and another case where it's required is if it's a second adoption already.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in the Domestic Administrative Adoption Act, it's already a requirement. It's mandatory already.
Okay, yes, which is the new proposed adoption bill, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, we'll talk a little bit about that later. excited na tayo to talk about that
sorry.
because of the news that came out just before we went live. But yeah, okay, let's go back to the process. So it's around August. You submit your requirements. You're scheduled for a home visit. What exactly happens in a home visit? What do you have to prepare? I know some people who can get very anxious about the home visit because the social worker, pre-pandemic, the social worker actually comes to your house and looks around. And I remember being really anxious about my home visit and not knowing, should I cook? Should I prepare lunch? What should I do? What was it like for you, and how did you prepare for your home visit?
Yeah, well, for us, we were told to show where the baby would actually stay or where the baby would sleep. So, even for the home study, we already prepared a crib. And yeah, that's it. We
Oh,
already prepared
wow.
the crib. We set it up in our room. Yeah, and then if you can see, there's already stuffed toys and some books. Um, yeah, because that's what the social worker said. So that's what we did. And aside from that, yeah, we were actually very nervous about, like, does the place have to be super clean? And we have a pet, right? So we were like vacuuming all the fur around and sweeping. Yeah, but it wasn't it wasn't stressful actually. Yeah, the social worker really just wants to see that the baby has a healthy environment to grow up in, and there's no evidence of any illegal activity in your house, or
Right.
yeah, things like that.
Yes. And, I'm glad you mentioned that. And I laughed initially at the thought of illegal activity, but actually, child trafficking is so common now. And there are cases of people posing as, loving parents who want to adopt, but actually the child gets into OSEC, on the online sexual exploitation of children and things like that. So that home visit is really a necessary part. And it is, the social worker does need to come and see the environment and get an idea of what it's like to be in your home. It's not so much, is everything child proof? Is everything, do you have breakable items in the house? Which is
Yeah,
what
like there's no
initially we thought.
checklist. Yeah, like
Right.
sometimes in movies they show a social worker going around checking things. Yeah,
Yes.
there wasn't any of that.
At least in the United States, I guess that's the context, at least the media context in which we understand adoption and the social work process. It's not like that here. It's really more, do you have space? Are there so many people living in your house that there's no space for another child? What's the dynamic? And, they really just want to get to know you.
To know you, yeah, that's true.
What was it like? So you got to meet your social worker, and then was it a lady? She came over to your place, and what happened? Was it just an interview? What happened while she was at your home?
It was basically an interview. We live in a condominium, so the tour was very brief. So we showed her the crib we had set up and some of the things we had prepared for the baby. And then we actually offered to show her, like the playground and like the clinic or the pool, the other places where we were thinking that were useful for her to know. But she said, no, it's fine, it's fine. Let's just talk. So yeah, most of it was really an in-depth interview. So there was
Right.
a time where she was speaking only to me, and then she spoke to my husband alone, and then there was an interview with both of us.
Okay, and that's something that also families are curious about. What kind of questions do they ask, and why was there a need to talk to you guys individually within the interview?
Well, they were questions ranging from about our early childhood, about each of the families where we came from, like what was your family like, what did you do for fun, what was your parents parenting style, what did you go to church with your parents and siblings. yeah, and then I guess they just wanted to hear it directly from us. Maybe they thought, I don't know, one of us would control the interview more if we were together all the time. I don't know, but yeah, that's what they asked each of us, and then when we were together, they talked more about our life together. So, our marriage, our spirituality, how we handle money, things like that. Everything. It was very comprehensive.
Right. And they're not difficult questions, but it really is an in-depth, I like how you put it. It's an in-depth, like really trying to get to know you kind of interview. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. My daughter is trying to get me to come downstairs. That is my eldest daughter, Coco. So yeah. Sorry. So Monica, tell me a little bit about after that happens and after the home visit, what happens next, and how did you go through? Take the next steps. The home visit happens, and social worker comes, says, okay, you're good. We believe you're fit to be parents. Do they actually tell you that? And how do you move on to the next thing?
Yeah. So after the home visit, she told us that that would be our last visit, and then that she would start the process of drafting the report already. So, uh, yeah. So, well, we just gave her time to draft the report. We would follow up every now and then. Uh, yeah, and then but basically we just waited. That was actually the most difficult part of the process. That wait.
Yeah, the waiting part is what they say is the hardest, right? And everybody hears about having to wait in the adoption process, and people will say, so like, how long does it take? Everybody's concerned about how long, and I know that you actually had quite a long stretch of waiting, a little bit more than you had expected. Do you know what happened? And so from that home visit, I know there was like a little bit of waiting time, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, whenever we'd follow up, we would our social worker would say that she's working on it. She's working on it, and then of course I know that she has a lot of other. She's handling a lot of other cases, so I'm sure that was part of why it took her a long time. And also, our social worker has a boss, and her boss has a boss,
And they all
of
need to
them-
sign off.
yeah, and they all need to sign off, and they all need to review what's in the report. So yeah, and then of course in January, then the pandemic hit, and so
Okay, so
That's
that
amazing.
whole process of review, and I know we met you in September. Actually, it was probably just after you had your home visit,
yes,
and
that's
then
right.
kind of like waiting. And usually the expectation is that you'll hear back in several weeks, but I know it's stretched on a bit longer, probably because of the different layers of approval that were required. Um, but moving into that process of kind of like waiting, how did you guys manage that time of waiting? What did you do to appease yourselves? And they're like, how much following up can I do? Well, what did you guys do, because it was several months of just kind of hanging in there?
Yes, it was. Well, honestly, I just prayed. I had never prayed as hard as I did then. Um, yeah, I just surrendered everything to God, sanctified the journey, and dedicated it to Him. And I mean, what else can I what else can I do, right? Yeah, but that helped a lot. After I surrendered the whole journey to God, I wasn't as anxious anymore. But I did go through the anxious stage, because at the start we were even hoping to have the baby home by Christmas after the home
Right.
visit in September. So but
Right.
the first few months Well, having my Instagram account helped. Knowing that, at least during my wait, maybe I can be productive and help other parents.
So it was
And
actually in that period of waiting that you started the Instagram account.
yes, that's right. Yeah. So it was good for me because I felt like, yeah, I was being productive and helping, but I also got a lot of support from the adoption community at that time.
That's so great. And I was just talking to another family who did the same thing, documented their adoption journey through an Instagram account, and that brought so much support. And at the same time, you were actually able to really help a lot of families as well who are looking for the same thing: support, connection, people who have gone ahead. What was your intention for starting littlejourneys.ph?
Yeah, well, first, because when we started telling people that we had decided to adopt, I was surprised at how many of my friends actually told me, we actually looked into adoption, but we
Wow.
didn't know how to go about it. Like, they did go to the DSWD website and they saw the law, but I guess, it's not that easy to read maybe or
Right.
understand. And some of them, they actually knew that there were adoption for fora at the DSWD or other foundations, but um sometimes that can feel like such a big step for someone. What
Right.
if you just want to know, right? What if you're the kind of person who wants to know what will happen from start to finish, right? But and that forum can be such a big step. And then aside from that, there were a lot of misconceptions. So there were people who didn't know anything. There were people who knew the wrong things.
Oh no.
Because
Yeah,
for a lot of us, our exposure to adoption is from movies, Hollywood, or the teleseries,
that's
which
right.
aren't very true. So I wanted to correct those, uh, and then give information, and then I wanted also a support community for myself and for our child. Yeah, and then I wanted my child to grow up in a village where my family and friends, our family and friends, are comfortable speaking about adoption. So that's really why I did it. I wanted to normalize it. I
Right.
didn't think I was doing anything groundbreaking, but normalizing
Right.
was my goal.
It's so true. It really helps when you take the first step of being open about the adoption. It affects the way others perceive it because you've set the tone. You said we're celebrating this, we're not hiding it. We're excited about adopting, we're excited about building our family this way, and people take their cue from you. And so when they say, "Oh, they're so excited about it," they set up an Instagram page, then they feel like they can openly ask you questions. They can they can celebrate with you and not feel like awkward about how to approach your particular journey, right?
Yes, yes, and for my child, that was really it. I mean, aside from supporting us, we wanted our child to be supported by our family and friends as well.
Great. Okay. So I'm getting a time check. I know we're only halfway through the journey. So let's move into we'll come back to those bits later, but let's move into the next phase, which was when things eventually started moving again. If I'm not mistaken, it was about 9 months, 8 months later, it was May of 2020 when, after I guess the pandemic and the major lockdowns had happened, things started to move again.
Hmm. Yeah. So around it was around June. Oh no, sorry. It was May when our social worker informed us that our application was going to be presented at the matching conference. Yeah. So by
Wow.
that time, matching conferences had moved online. So that's how they were able to resume it during the pandemic. So, but we weren't matched at the first conference where we were presented.
How many conferences did it take for you to get a match?
Two.
Two.
So
Okay.
yeah. So at the June conference, we were matched with our daughter.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about matching. So you're finally matched in June of 2020, which is just under a year from the time that just over a year from the time that you had attended the DSWD seminar. Because in May 2019 and then June 2020, you're matched. And when you talk a bit about matching, usually that's because they look at your home study report, they look at your preferences. Did you have a preference that you stated to your social worker with regards to, gender and age?
Yeah. So we said that we would accept a child that was um 0 to 2 years old of either gender.
Okay.
And then the social worker asks if would you be open to a child with special needs. But we said we didn't think we were prepared for that. We didn't have experience with that. Um, there and we just specified that if the child can please not have respiratory issues because we have a pet.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, that's a helpful tip though, because when you're letting the social worker know what your preferences are, that's really what it's for. It's not like, please give me the cutest child or a pretty baby. It's actually to know, more practically speaking, given your lifestyle and given the life stage that you're in, are there preferences that you have with regards to gender or health conditions, or the age of the child. But I did, I think I read a post on your Instagram about one of your adoption regrets. And it so caught my attention, and I shared it with my team yesterday. Do you want to share a little bit about your adoption, your one regret?
Yeah, sure. I wrote that at the time when I was getting frustrated with the weight, with the weight to be matched. So I said that my biggest adoption regret is not specifying what gender we preferred, only because one of the things that can make the wait more bearable for adoptive parents is preparing for the arrival of the child, right? So feeling that you're expecting parents and getting everything ready. And because we were not able to because we did not specify, so we did not know if we were going to have a boy or a girl, we couldn't go all
Really
out and
prepare.
buy. Yes, and really prepare. And that might seem very trivial or superficial to some, but to adoptive parents, those things, that preparation is the only outward sign that you are expecting a child. It's it's how you feel that you are going to be a mom or a dad. So the fact that that we couldn't buy those things, we couldn't engage in that preparation, was really kind of frustrated us more. Like I didn't want to buy like all gray stuff, which is what some people suggest.
Yeah.
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 Well,
Well,
that's
that's
it.
great. I
That's
thought
the only reason.
that's a nice way to also angle the waiting time, is that while you're waiting, you can actually prepare for the child the same way you would prepare as if you were pregnant, right? For a child who's coming biologically, you kind of start to shop and buy things that is an outwards expression of your anticipation of a new family member.
Yes, and that's
Right.
actually what the wait is for, right? I mean,
Preparation.
yeah, they really want you to prepare. They give you time to prepare.
Okay, good. So now that you're ready and you're prepared, right, and you finally get matched, can you walk us through the experience of finding out, okay, we've been matched, what happens, and how how excited were you guys to find out that finally you were matched?
Yeah. Yeah, so the matching conference was on a Friday afternoon, and we were anxiously waiting for our social worker to text us, even way into the night. But she texted us the following morning. When she didn't text at around midnight, I was thinking, oh, maybe we didn't get matched again.
Yeah.
But she texted us the next day, and we were so happy. We were matched. We tried to ask what if we got a boy or a girl, but she said no. Why don't you just go to the office on Monday to look at the child's file? So yeah, so bright and early the following Monday, we went to DSWD's regional office, and we were shown the picture and the file of the child that we were matched with, and we got a girl. We were so when we opened the folder and we saw, the picture of a happy little girl smiling at us. It
You
was
were
such
pleasantly surprised.
yeah, it was relief and such grace and disbelief even, because wow, it's her. She's
Wow.
here. Yeah.
Wow,
So
that's amazing.
yeah, so that day we looked at the file. That file contains everything from the circumstances surrounding how she was brought to the child caring agency, and then it has detailed records of every visit that the pedia did to the orphanage. So, and then there was even like a developmental assessment already, and it was complete, everything. Yeah, and then there was a video, so we saw our daughter interacting with other children. Yeah, and then they asked us, okay, are you going to accept the match? Uh, Technically, or under the law, you actually have 5 days to accept the match, but we accepted then and there. So right then and there, we told them that we would accept.
Great. Wow. So you accept the match, and how long until you actually get to hold her in your arms? What's that process like up to the entrustment ceremony and everything, where you actually get to take her home?
Yeah. With us, I remember the matching conference was June 26th, and we brought her home July 8th. So
Okay.
it was just
That's
about
quite
2 weeks.
quick.
Yes, and I think they actually expedited our entrustment a little bit because they took advantage of that time when they loosened the restrictions a bit.
Sure.
I think they were afraid that, if they lock down again, they might not be able to release the child to us. During that time, we had some online calls with our daughter and the social
Oh,
worker.
that's so nice.
Yes, yeah, it was nice just to see her online, and but she was young. She didn't really um, participate. We took those chances to ask the social worker, what kind of snacks does she like, what diapers are you using now, so that we could stock up what formula she drank. So we
Yeah.
could stock up before we could take her home.
Okay, great. So it looks like, we want to flash the timeline of the whole process up until you're able to take her home. This is a question we get asked all the time, and it's a wonderful, I think, example, because not only, is this a recent experience, it actually is also taking into consideration the pandemic. So, May 2019, attending the DSWD seminar, exactly a year later, you're advised that you're ready to be matched. 2 short months after that, in July, you actually welcome Gabby home. And then there are some, I guess, more administrative things that follow, where you kind of have to wait for that certificate, that the consent to adopt that comes from the SWD, that they issue that in December, and then fast forward to January of this year, where you filed the petition in court.
Yes, that's right.
So it's been quite a journey, and I do want to ask you now a little bit about the process, the legal process of adoption, because it looks like you've actually completed already the whole administrative side, the social side, and working with DSWD. You have custody of Gabby. She's with you. She's doing well. It's actually been over a year already, right? That she's been with you. And she's been with you for over a year now. But actually, the adoption process currently, under the current adoption process, is not yet complete. because the legal side has not yet been accomplished. There's
The
news
judicial
to
side.
the judicial side has not yet been accomplished. So there was news today that actually the proposed new adoption bill has been approved in the Senate. Can you give us a bit of context around that and how that's going to affect, for example, those who have standing judicial process in their adoption cases?
Yeah, sure. So right now, the adoption process has an administrative part and a judicial part. The administrative part is what we've been talking about. So that's the one with DSWD, and then the judicial part takes place as a court proceeding, and study or statistics have shown that on the average, it takes about 3 years for an adoption to be final. And that somehow disincentivizes people who want to adopt from going through the legal process. Sometimes that's why people resort to illegal adoptions or simulations of birth. Uh, yeah, but those can be quick, but there are no social protections for the child or for the parents. So under the new bill, the domestic administrative adoption bill, right, which was just approved, the adoption process is purely administrative. So the petition, so up until give the supervised trial custody, which is the period after the child is entrusted to you.
Just about 3 months, right? If I'm not
That's right.
mistaken.
Yeah, that's right. Um, the petition will now be filed with the DSWD. It not in court anymore. So it's still a petition. It's still in affidavit form. You file it with the regional office of the DSWD, and then it's the regional director who approves this. Who approves it? He's given 30 days to do it. After 30 days, he has to transmit it to the secretary of the DSWD, who has another 30 days to approve it. And then there are still the safeguards that are in the current process. So there is a period where someone can object to the petition for adoption, and then after the order of adoption is issued, there's also, if the adoption is denied, there's a motion for reconsideration, and there's an appeals process too. So it shortens the process for the benefit of the parents and the child, while also safeguarding all the controls that are in the current process.
Yeah, that's something really to be excited about. I think that a lot of families have reached out to us since we've been part of an adoption council working with the office of Senator Risa Ontiveros, as well as the other senators who have worked so hard on this new Domestic Adoption Act. And it's really meant to shorten the process and make it more accessible, that hopefully it would be less intimidating to families who are considering adoption.
And less
Now you can just
expensive.
work with and less expensive. You're right. I've actually been wondering how this is going to impact all the adoption lawyers, the lawyers who specialize in adoption, because actually what will happen is that judicial process will no longer be necessary. You will no longer need a lawyer to facilitate that process because you work directly with DSWD, right? And so for people like who are in your shoes, our understanding is actually that you can actually withdraw your petition if it's signed by the president within the year and all of that. You'll actually be able to withdraw your petition and file directly with DSWD instead. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. So the law has a provision stating that although all those who have pending judicial petitions for adoption can choose to withdraw their petitions and then opt for the benefits under the new Administrative Adoption Act.
Right. And so for families like yours, is that something that you would recommend, or is there actually an option to stick to it and actually wait out the court process?
Uh, I I would say that this is a good development and we should take advantage of it. But because court processes vary greatly between courts and between
Yes.
judges, so it would really depend at what stage they are in the process. In our case, we haven't started the hearings at all, so maybe it would be a good that's a good option for us to take.
Right. Okay, great. Thank you. I just want to take a couple of minutes to answer some questions that have shown up. So we have another question from Christy on this topic. So do you know if the new bill that is being considered, which takes the decision to DSWD instead of court, also issues a certificate of finality? Some parents who migrate to other countries after the adoption need the certificate of finality to apply for citizenship to other countries. Would you
Um,
know?
I think so. The certificate of finality is standard in most quasi judicial proceedings. So I think you should be able to request that after the period to file a motion for reconsideration lapses. The
Okay.
DSWD should be able to issue that.
Great. Another question from Esther says, for the home study, do we need to already show what we have set up for the child, or could it be our plan changes for the home? Like, could you just let them know this is how we plan on, I guess, reconfiguring the space to accommodate the child? Or does it have to be, because I saw you guys actually set it up really nicely, the crib was out and everything. Would you know if that's standard? What's actually required?
Yeah. Well, there really isn't a fixed requirement. In our case, we chose to set it up because we already knew, and there were no changes that would be made. But yeah, there's really no standard.
Okay. All right. I'm seeing another question. Okay, about foster care. Not sure if you would know, but we can address this afterwards if you're not familiar, Monica. The question is, if we're planning to migrate, can we bring our foster child while papers are still in process?
As far as I know, you can't travel with a foster child.
Yeah, you can't migrate. So actually, I think under your foster license would allow you to travel with the child and to receive clearance from DSWD if the child is able to get a passport and all of that. You can bring your child overseas for like a family trip, vacation for short periods of time. But migration while the papers are still in process would not be covered, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. We can check on this for you if we get maybe understand your case a bit more. Be happy to get you an exact answer if you give us a little bit more detail. So please reach out to us, Tinton Jose, and let us know if we can help you by sending us a direct message. Maybe we can answer this more specific to your case. Just checking if any other questions. Okay, it looks like we're good. I do have just final question. Maybe you can just tell us, what are your greatest joys in adoption? Why has it been worth, that whole journey of waiting? Why is adoption worthwhile, Monica? And why has it been that way for you and your husband, Jeremy, and of course, your daughter, Gabby?
Yeah, well, our adoption journey for me has been a journey of faith. When we started this, who knew that a pandemic would hit during the process? But as I said, as long as you sanctify and dedicate the process to God, then everything that happens is just grace. And I told you that we did not specify the gender of the child that we wanted, but really I secretly wanted a girl. And just opening that folder and seeing Gabby's picture, I had never felt so blessed. And that's when I knew that the Lord was with us during this whole journey, and that he would never disappoint us, and that he knows the desires of our heart, and he has a plan for all of us. So That's why Gabby, seeing Gabby every day, she's a reminder for me of God's plan and God's love. And that's why the journey is so worth it.
That's so wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Monica Jimenez-Bigbig. You can follow
Thanks,
her
Tina.
at little.journeys.ph. Thank you so much for sharing your journey of faith, just this story that brings so much hope and also so much practical information to those who are watching and who are so curious about what adoption is like in the Philippines, especially now that we're in uncertain times. The pandemic has impacted a lot of things in our nation. It's wonderful to see that you were still able to take Gabby home in spite of all the hindrances and all the obstacles. So thank you so much. For those who would like to know more, please do follow Monica on her Instagram account so that you can stay up to date on their journey, as well as all the helpful stuff and insight she has about adoption. Thanks, Monica. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Karina. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for watching. So glad that was such a wonderful conversation we've had with Attorney Monica Bigbig. I hope that was inspiring for you. It's really a good day. Yes, Romy Brasas is sending us a message. He's one of our, he's at the forefront of a lot of adoption advocacy work that's happening, saying good news, SB 1933 has just been approved on third reading. I know a lot of adoption advocates are rejoicing today because it's such wonderful news. So we're sharing that joy, that excitement. Senator Risa Ontiveros just posted about it, as well as Senator Pia Cayetano. So something to really be excited about. Do follow them as well for more updates on the Domestic Administrative Adoption Act and all the details. We're praying that it will be signed by our president very, very soon. And hopefully this will encourage many more families to pursue adoption in our nation. So thank you again for joining me. Do share this with those who would be interested in finding out more about the adoption process, the timelines, all of those details, which Monica shared in so much detail, what each step is like. I'm sure it's going to be helpful to a lot of people. So thanks for joining us. Sign up for our consults. Stay in touch with us through our social media platforms. We would love to hear from you. There's the QR code for the adoption consults. And do make sure to check out our Family is the Answer podcast, now streaming on all the places where you stream your podcasts. Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you soon. Bye.